Pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and a deep heart. The really great men must, I think, have great sadness on earth. This line was written by a man who, at just 27 years old, was condemned to death, forced to stand before a firing squad, blindfolded, ready to die. Imagine the silence of that moment, the cold rifles pointed at his chest, the seconds stretching like eternity, and then, at the very last instant, his life was spared. That man was Fyodor Dostoevsky, a soul who carried the scars of exile, poverty, epilepsy, and endless inner torment. And yet, from these wounds, he forged some of the greatest novels ever written, works that can shake the human spirit of yours to its core. But here's the question. Why must men suffer, especially great men? Why did Dostoevsky's life demand such agony before giving him the vision to write about the depths of the human condition? In this video, we will talk through his sufferings, not to pity him, but to understand how suffering became the soil of his genius, and perhaps how his story carries a lesson for our own struggles, our own path to greatness. So let's get into it. After facing death for 3/4 of an hour, I was a hair's breadth away from death, and now I am alive again. I am being reborn in another form. These words, written by Fyodor Dostoevsky to his brother Mikhail in 1849, are not poetic exaggeration. They are the testimony of a man who stood blindfolded before rifles, prepared to die, and was spared at the final second. At just 27, Dostoevsky had joined the Petrushevsky Circle, a group of intellectuals who dared to read and discuss banned Western philosophy. In Tsarist Russia, even listening to such ideas was treasonous. Arrested, hastily tried, and condemned to death, he and his comrades were marched on a freezing December morning to Semyonovsky Square. Dressed in execution whites, kissed by the cross, and with sabers ceremoniously broken over their heads, they were symbolically cut off from the living world. Dostoevsky, blindfolded, heard the crack of rifles being readied. 3 men went forward. He knew he was next. Seconds stretched into eternity. And then, in a cruel twist of theater, a messenger announced a pardon from Tsar Nicholas I. The entire execution had been staged to break the prisoner's spirits. Dostoevsky's sentence was commuted to years of hard labor in Siberia. But the man who walked away from that square was not the same as the man who had walked into it. Life is a gift. Life is happiness. Each moment could be an eternity of bliss, he later wrote, as if reborn into a new consciousness. That encounter with death did not destroy him. It remade him. He confessed to his brother, "Brother, I'm not despondent and I haven't lost heart. Life is everywhere, to remain human no matter in what circumstances." Yet even amid relief, fear lingered. "If I won't be able to write, I'll perish. Better 15 years of imprisonment and a pen in hand." To Dostoevsky, survival without creativity would have been another kind of death. The trauma of that day echoed through all his work. Prince Mishkin in The Idiot retells the story of a man reprieved at the scaffold, a transparent mirror of Dostoevsky himself. Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment undergoes a psychological death and rebirth, while Demons and the Brothers Karamazov wrestle with the same questions of suffering, redemption, and the fleeting miracle of existence. In surviving the mock execution, Dostoevsky gained more than just time. He gained vision. As Viktor Frankl would later write, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. That December morning forced Dostoevsky to do exactly that. He looked into death's face and chose to live differently, with urgency, faith, and compassion. The man who walked away from Semyonovsky Square carried within him the strange paradox of genius, that great men must suffer, and through suffering, be reborn. And the lessons were not learned just in that moment. He was later sent to a Siberian prison, which became another chapter of both great adventure and torture, and one that I am going to discuss now. That which does not kill me makes me stronger. Friedrich Nietzsche's line could have been written for Dostoevsky himself. After the terror of his mock execution, his real punishment began. 4 years of forced labor in the Omsk penal colony of Siberia, followed by years of military exile. Shackled among thieves and murderers, Dostoevsky endured bitter cold, hunger, disease, and relentless humiliation. Many men broke under such conditions. Dostoevsky was broken too, but in being broken, he was remade. He later immortalized this crucible in Notes from the House of the Dead, a semi-autobiographical novel that spares no detail. Sadistic guards, endless floggings, men guilty of the most unspeakable crimes. Yet even here he saw something unexpected: humanity. I was always astonished at the extraordinary good nature and lack of malice with which men who had been flogged spoke of their beatings, he wrote. Surrounded by misery, he found moments of dignity, humor, and tenderness. Siberia stripped him of rank and pride. Born a nobleman, he discovered that status meant nothing inside the camp. He was met with hostility and contempt, yet in time, hostility turned to respect. Dostoevsky overcame his prejudices and admitted that he began to recognize the intense humanity and moral qualities of those around him. Suffering humbled him, but it also awakened compassion. The angry young revolutionary became something else, a witness to pain and a seeker of meaning within it. In that furnace, faith also returned. Death, disease, and despair pressed so close that only prayer and reflection offered relief. Later he would say those years annealed him, hardened him against future trials, and at the same time opened him to God. The experience burned away excess, leaving only what mattered. But Siberia did not just change his soul, it reshaped his art. The seizures that began there became his sacred disease, later embodied in characters like Prince Mishkin in The Idiot. Figures first sketched in his prison notebooks, like Akim Akimich and Dmitri, would reappear decades later in the Brothers Karamazov. His torment became the fuel for his greatest psychological insights. He had proven to himself what he later recorded in his diary. Man is a creature who can get used to anything, even a prison camp. Dostoevsky once remarked of those years, "It killed off in me the needs of the flesh that were not completely pure. Now deprivations no longer bother me. Out of Siberia came not just survival, but a new philosophy, that even in the abyss of cruelty, life and hope remain. What Nietzsche described, that the soul forged by fire emerges stronger, was Dostoevsky's lived truth." Anyways, finally, when he was free, he found himself into another addiction which is worth discussing here. Man is sometimes extraordinarily passionately in love with suffering. Few lives embody this paradox more than that of Fyodor Dostoevsky. After years in exile and facing a Russia that had changed in his absence, he returned not to peace, but to the same demons that had always followed him. Chief among them was an all-consuming gambling addiction that nearly destroyed him. What began as a curiosity during his travels in Europe quickly spiraled into ruin. In city after city, Baden-Baden, Wiesbaden, Homburg, he threw away everything he earned, even money meant for his family. He once described the gambling table as the wildest hysteria of the soul, the maddest delirium of hope. Each spin of the wheel left him deeper in debt, corroding his relationships and pushing him toward despair. By 1865, Dostoevsky was penniless. Every bet became existential. In his mind, it was all or nothing. Then came the breaking point. In 1866, crushed by debt, he struck a desperate pact with publisher F.T. Stolovsky: deliver a short novel by November 1st, or lose the rights to all his future work for 9 years. A literary death sentence. With everything at stake, he hired a young stenographer, Anna Grigorievna Snitkina, and began dictating furiously. In just 26 days, racing against the clock, they completed The Gambler. Dostoevsky entrusted the manuscript to a policeman to ensure it reached the publisher in time. Against all odds, he won this wager with fate. The novel mirrored his own torment, obsession, humiliation, and the seductive illusion of control. The Gambler was more than fiction. It was confession. And yet, in the chaos of writing it, Dostoevsky found something he did not expect: love. Anna, who became his wife in 1867, steadied his life in ways no fortune ever could. He later admitted that through her, he regenerated into a new form. This turn from ruin toward redemption reveals the paradox of suffering. His gambling left him broken, humiliated, and desperate, but it also deepened his empathy and sharpened his insight into the human condition. Poverty and compulsion became the raw material for his greatest works, from Crime and Punishment to the Brothers Karamazov. Dostoevsky's story reminds us that great men often suffer not in spite of their genius, but because of it. His addiction was a shadow he never fully escaped, but through it he transformed despair into art. He gambled with fate, lost almost everything, and yet, in love, in literature, and in spirit, he won the right to begin again. But just at the time when he was on the same path, he lost love, and this pattern of losing loved ones was not the first time for him, which I am going to discuss now. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. These words echo through the life of Fyodor Dostoevsky, a man who seemed destined to love deeply, lose deeply, and from that cycle, create works that changed literature forever. In April 1864, tragedy struck twice. His first wife, Maria Dmitrievna, died of tuberculosis, and soon after, his beloved brother Mikhail also passed away. He found himself widowed, grieving, and burdened with new responsibilities. These twin losses plunged him into despair and financial strain, but also ignited something new, a fierce determination to transmute pain into art. That same year, he published Notes from Underground, a bitter, haunting novella that mirrors his own alienation. Soon after, while traveling with his future wife Anna Snitkina, Dostoevsky began writing Crime and Punishment. Its protagonist, Raskolnikov, is a poor, tormented man who convinces himself he is above morality. The novel's chilling power lies in the fact that it was born directly from Dostoevsky's own wounds, guilt, alienation, and the desperate search for redemption. But Dostoevsky's story is not only one of suffering, it is also one of resurrection. In 1867, he married Anna, who became his emotional anchor and true partner. She edited his works, steadied his finances, and offered him a love unmarred by despair. With her, he wrote The Idiot, a novel that dares to imagine a man of pure goodness, Prince Mishkin, returning to a society too corrupt to accept him. Much like Dostoevsky himself, Mishkin is fragile yet luminous, a vision of what humanity could be if touched by grace. As years passed, Dostoevsky continued to transform his personal chaos, gambling debts, exile in Siberia, lost loves, and newfound joys, into towering masterpieces. Out of devastation came moral clarity. Out of heartbreak came empathy. Out of chaos came beauty. As Nietzsche observed, one must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star.